Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is still holding on to this important area of support after briefly dipping below the area of support after the new inflation numbers were released, which did wipe out an area of liquidity, which I'll talk about in just a moment, alongside Ethereum still just hanging on to this important line of support, while the price of Solana is also rejecting from this area of resistance in the short term, while XRP is still currently bouncing from this important area of support. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today, taking a quick look at the news today, because just a matter of hours ago, we did get the new CPI inflation numbers being released, and the CPI inflation number year over year came in at exactly 3%. And of course, if you watched my last video just yesterday, the expectation was 2.9%. So it did come in slightly above expectations. And basically, the moment this number got released, in the following minutes, basically in the next 10 to 20 minutes, give or take, or the next half an hour, that sort of time frame, we did end up seeing a short-term reaction in the price of Bitcoin, as you can see right here in the following minutes after this number got released. Basically, we saw a little short-term drop from roughly around $96,000 to $94,000 per Bitcoin, basically because the number came in slightly above expectations. And as I explained yesterday in my last video, if the number comes in above 2.9%, expect potentially a bearish reaction in the short term, but we didn't necessarily see a massive crash because it was only just above the expected number. So basically, after that immediate short-term reaction just here, obviously we did end up seeing a bit of a bounce back up in the short term. And if you want these extra updates from time to time throughout the day, then check out my Twitter, link below in the description and in the pinned comment. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on this weekly time frame, technically speaking, the larger bullish trend is still currently active on this weekly chart, with higher lows and higher highs in the price of Bitcoin, which is basically the definition of a bullish trend. And when we're talking about a larger bullish trend on the weekly time frame, we're essentially talking about a bull market. So technically speaking, we've not yet confirmed any bear market or anything like that, but obviously during these larger bull markets, we can have time periods where we have either corrections or short-term dumps in the price of Bitcoin, or basically periods of sideways consolidation, chopping around sideways during the larger bull market. So keep that in mind. And if we're taking a look at this 4-day Bitcoin chart, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bullish trend. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, as I've said recently here on the channel, we just recently confirmed a new bearish crossover in the weekly Bitcoin MACD. And the last couple of times this happened, we did end up seeing a bit more bearish price action in the price of Bitcoin, either over the following weeks or over the following months. And so obviously this signal cannot possibly tell us precisely how much bearish price action and for exactly how long that could last, but ultimately it is a bearish signal to pay attention to, which is pointing towards either a little bit more of a pullback potentially in the coming weeks, or at the very least just the price staying range bound for some time, chopping around sideways within a bit of a sideways price range, possibly for a number of weeks as a likely scenario. But for now, we're currently lacking momentum despite recently confirming a bearish crossover. We're not really seeing a lot of bearish momentum or bullish momentum, so relatively neutral at the moment in the shorter term. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, obviously we also have a massive bearish divergence on the weekly time frame, with higher highs in the price of Bitcoin in the candle closes and lower highs in the Bitcoin RSI on the weekly time frame, which is telling us we're losing a lot of bullish momentum in this larger bull market. So in other words, we're slowing down. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the shorter term, looking at the 8-hour Bitcoin chart, as of recording this video, the price of Bitcoin is still holding on to this important area of support, and in fact, currently bouncing from this support as of recording this video. And in case you're new to this channel, this area of support that I'm talking about is sitting in between around 95,000 to 96,000. And obviously, with that latest inflation number getting released, we did see a bit of a short-term drop just after that number got released, as I explained earlier in the video. So so that resulted in a little drop below that area of support, but we never confirmed candle closes below the support, so we never actually confirmed a break to the downside. And so at least as of right now, there is currently a lot of demands for the price of Bitcoin, a lot of buyers within this area currently buying up the price of Bitcoin, as we've seen over the last 1 week, give or take, or over the last couple of weeks. And in case we were to see a confirmed break to the downside below around 95,000, in that case, we also have this important area of support in between around 92,000 to 93,000. But obviously, as of right now, and as I've said quite a lot recently here on the channel, the price of Bitcoin is simply lacking momentum to either direction in the shorter term. So we don't really have a lot of bullish momentum or a lot of bearish momentum. We're basically just chopping around sideways. That is simply the situation for the price of Bitcoin right now. And when it comes to resistance, if we see a little bit more of a bounce here, expect some resistance at roughly around 98,500 to 99,000. And above that, we have more resistance in this price range in between around 101,000 to 103,000, and significant resistance in between around 106,000 to 107,000. And if you want to actually trade any of these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, or if you want to get set up ready to go to take the next trading opportunity, personally, I take most of my trades over on BTNix, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNix below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive rewards that are only available using that link. So if you simply just click that link to make your account and start trading on that account, you can get potentially up to a Tesla Model 3 or the equivalent 35,000 USDT if you don't want the Tesla, or you could get a Rolex Explorer 2 or 11,000 USDT if you don't want the Rolex, etc. And by the way, these bonuses you can actually withdraw if you actually unlock these bonuses. But once again, all of this is only available if you actually use the link below this video to make your BTNX account and start trading on that account. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link below this video. And also, in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map over the last 1 day and really over the last few hours after that CPI inflation number got released, we did see a little short-term dip to the downside, which did wipe out a small area of liquidity to the downside, which was sitting in between around 94,000 to 94,500 approximately. And so as I always say, usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where there's a lot of liquidity, and that's exactly what happened over the last 1 day or so. We did move towards that major area of liquidity, wiping out a bunch of long positions, but that was mainly caused by that inflation number and not necessarily a break below the support. As I said earlier, we never confirmed candle closes breaking below the support. And so for now, that is still supporting the price of Bitcoin, obviously here in the short term. And as for other liquidity to watch out for, we still have a small amount at around 93.7K to 93.8K, and also a small amount at just above 92,000. But other than that, we have a lot of liquidity building at around 103,000 and a small amount at 101,000 and 107,000. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the price of Ethereum on the weekly time frame, as of recording this video, the price of ETH is just holding on to this important line of support, which has been a multi-year line of support lasting from the middle of 2022. And as of recording this video, this line of support is currently coming into play at just above 2.6K. And ultimately, in terms of the weekly candle closes, we've not yet confirmed any actual break to the downside here, but we're getting very close to a possible breakdown. And so, for example, if we were to actually see candle closes on the weekly time frame below, let's just say 2.6K, then in that case, obviously, that would be the first major change in the price structure on the larger time frames, which would be bad news for Ethereum. But I'd also be paying attention to these previous lows, which based on the candle closes are sitting at around 2.3K and based on the candle wick lows is sitting at around 2.1k, because if we were to break below these previous lows, obviously that would be the first significant lower low that we've seen in years on this weekly time frame, which as of right now has not yet actually happened. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day Ethereum chart, the price of ETH is currently bouncing from just above this 50% retracement level, acting as support, which is sitting at around 2,500 as major support. But if we were to see a further break to the downside below 2,500 and especially below 2.6k, in that case we have the golden pocket area of support sitting in between around 2150 to 2.2k. And as I said earlier, I would expect some support at around 2.3k based on these previous candle closes at the lows. And as for resistance, if we see a little bit more of a bounce here in the short term, I would expect a lot of resistance starting at just above 2.7k and getting closer towards around 2.8k based on previous support and previous resistance, now once again acting as resistance. And as I usually say, the price of ETH along with a lot of the major altcoins out there tend to follow similar price action to what Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin has a dump or a bounce, expect something similar, not the exact same, but something similar for Ethereum and a lot of the major altcoins. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at Solana on the 8-hour time frame, right now the price of Solana is currently within a bit of a sideways price range, at least in the shorter term, because we are rejecting from this area of resistance, but we're also bouncing from a bit of support, which is sitting at roughly around $190, really at around 189 to 190. And we also have this area of support in between around 178 to 183. And of course, the resistance is sitting in between around 199 to 205. And we have more resistance at around 220 to 225. And just over the last one day, technically speaking, we have just confirmed an invalidation signal for this short-term bullish divergence here on the 8-hour time frame, because over the last one day, we did actually break below this ascending line of support, as we could see right here. And so as I already said yesterday anyway, I would not necessarily rely on this bullish divergence for really any longer, because it's already played out very nicely for around half a week and just over half a week until we ran into this resistance, which is where the price started to struggle. So ultimately, honestly, I expect mostly choppy sideways price action potentially for the next few days for the price of Solana, bouncing around between this support and this resistance. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the daily time frame, it's a very similar situation for XRP as what I just said for Solana. So basically, we're currently bouncing from this area of support, but we also have a lot of resistance just above the price. So first of all, this area of support is sitting in between $2.25 to $2.30, and the resistance is sitting in between around $2.58 to $2.73. And we also have some resistance at around $2.53 based on these latest highs just here. And technically speaking, over the last one day, we did just see an invalidation signal for this short-term bullish divergence, which is basically at least one signal telling us that the bullish divergence should not really be trusted for too much longer. Basically, at the moment, I would not necessarily rely on this bullish divergence any longer. But despite that being the case, of course, we're still holding above this important support, as I just mentioned. So ultimately, I do expect the price to somewhat remain range-bound, at least for the next few days in the shorter term, between this support and this resistance. And technically speaking, the larger bearish divergence on these larger time frames, like the daily chart and also on the 3-day chart, is technically still active. It's just right now we do have a lot of support in this area currently preventing the price from going lower, which is why I'm saying we're most likely going to stay within a bit of a sideways price range, just at least for the next few days, maybe longer, but at least for the next few days. And like I said earlier, usually the price of XRP, along with a lot of the major altcoins, follows similar price action to Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin's chopping around sideways, expect something similar for XRP. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, it's a very similar story for Chainlink on this chart, because the price is basically just chopping around sideways, at least in the short term, between support and resistance. So first of all, we have this 50% retracement level acting as strong support at around $17.70, but really in between around $17.70 to $18. That's the major area of support that I would right now be watching, as I've already been saying for the last week, and so far it has been acting as strong support. support. But if we were to break below around 1770 with a daily candle close at least below that level, in that case, we have the important golden pocket area of support in between around $14.90 to $15.50. But currently, we're still finding a lot of support at $17.70 to $18. And as for resistance, we have a lot of resistance in between around $19.50 to $20 approximately, based on previous support becoming new resistance. And honestly, it's extremely likely that at least over the next few days, maybe longer, but at least over the next few days, it's very likely the price will somewhat remain range bound, basically just chopping around sideways between that support and resistance that I just mentioned. And once again, if you want to get set up ready to go to take the next trading opportunity in the price of any crypto, check out those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim extra exclusive bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, you can profit from all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.